Hi, everybody. I'm Samir. I'm the marketing manager for Everdome, and I'm super excited to be hosting this Spaces here with the Alvara team. In particular, we have Joey van Etten, the head of business development. If I'm not mistaken, Joey, from your LinkedIn, a recent promotion, so congratulations on that. Welcome to the first Everdome Alvara Spaces here. We're really excited to have this conversation and kicking it off with you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I hope everyone enjoys it. You can see there's a couple people dropping in still. So let's just continue.
Exactly. Yeah. Just in the interest of everyone's time who's already here, I figure we could just jump right into it. And as folks roll in, it shouldn't disturb any of the process here. Now, just a few housekeeping items for everybody. We're standing right here by the Alvara logo. So please make sure you make your way over here just to make sure you can see us. If you have any issues, please type in the chat. We do have team members that will try to assist you. Please refrain from holding down the V key to speak or anything like that, just until we get to, there will be a segment of this conversation that will open it up to the floor, but just to be respectful of the conversation, to allow us to go through some of the items that we wanted to chat through and then go from there. The other thing to be mindful of is that we're going to be moving around the space. So that's why it's important that you see us here right at the front. We're going to be moving around the space as we're going to be talking about some of the different pieces on the walls and really diving into the conversation here. So to kick things off, Joey, the one thing I would like to know, and I think there's going to be a mixture of folks here in this space from the Alvara team or community rather, and there's going to be folks from the Everdome community. For those who are new to Alvara, sort of getting to know it, what's the main thing you would want them to know about this project?
I think the main thing for us is that we're actually contributing to core DeFi infrastructure. And what we've done is build a new token standard. And at first, it was called the ERC BTS, which is ERC, of course, for the token standard, and BTS for basket token standard. But we've got sort of a premiere today. 2 days ago, our token standard got merged into the main Ethereum GitHub. So it's actually visible on the EIP website, and it's called ERC 7621. So we've actually contributed to core DeFi infrastructure. It's a draft for now, and we're continuing to announce today and tomorrow, but that's the premiere. Just wanted to share, and that's kind of the most important thing we've built is the token standard.
That's incredible. Congratulations. I imagine there was a lot of hard work and time and effort that went into making that happen.
Yeah, it's been about 2 years since we've started building, and it started with an idea of decentralizing fund management. And essentially, eventually we came up with actually building a token standard to make the infra possible for it.
Very cool. So could you maybe go through the most important aspects of the platform, and to make this as interactive as possible, let's utilize the space here. So we'll follow you along, and the mic is all yours.
So I've moved to the image which says a new token standard. So I'll dive into how it works a little bit. The new ERC 7621 enables anyone to become a fund manager. So there's multiple assets being able to be locked up in a fund, and the token standard distributes a management token to the one creating it, and LP tokens for the value of the assets inside of it. This allows a person to manage the fund, but what it also does is it allows other people to contribute to the fund, which allows for mutual funds. So that's the first part of the platform. That's what we've built upon. And what you see next to it is the ERC BTS factory, which we've changed to BTS factory to make it a bit easier to read. But the BTS factory has been built upon the ERC 7621. And this is essentially the front end. So what people can do here, they can go onto our front end, go onto the website. They can go to creating a fund, which allows them to put in an image, details, a ticker, a description, and just everything to give it a name and to make it unique. And when they go further into the process of creating a fund, they can select all the assets according to their weightings. Like you see in the image, it's an example. Alva, Sandbox, Vamp, Mana, Sol. People can just create a multi-asset fund according to any weightings they like. And then they go to the minting part, and that's when they actually create the fund on the blockchain. And then it gets projected onto our leaderboard. And I think further down we have an image of the leaderboard. Let's move there. I believe I'm standing next to it all, and I hope everyone has joined us. Maybe you could confirm that we're all here?
Yep, we're all here.
Well, this is the leaderboard. Like I said, all performance metrics are visible, the fund name, the fund image, anything. And this is where people can press to view the details page of any fund. That is actually the image next to it. So this would be a details page of a fund where you can go further into the weightings, the description, the percentage, the AUM, anything. This is also the page where you can choose to contribute. When you contribute to a fund, you get LP tokens. And when it's a DAO managed fund, which is a fund that gets managed by anyone holding LP tokens, the creator of a fund makes a proposal when he wants to make a change inside of the fund. So say he wants to change VAMP to Sandbox. He has to make a proposal, and anyone who has LP tokens will be able to vote on the proposal. So we're essentially creating a small democracy within every DAO managed fund. I think my mic cut out a little bit there. To facilitate institutions to onboard with us is we don't just have the DAO managed fund, because in general, institutions want to have control over their own fund. What we've done is we have a discretionary version too, which you can select at the beginning of creating a BTS. So most institutions will go for a discretionary fund. We'll have them KYC'd, we'll have them checked, but the institutions will be able to fully control their own fund. This allows for more TVL to be locked up in our platform, and it also allows the freedom of having either discretionary or having a DAO managed fund. Yeah, but I think that's the most important part of the platform.
So I have a general question for you. Tokenizing real world assets, such as real estate, art, other commodities, that all sounds extremely interesting to me. Could you share a little bit more on how this is implemented into Alvara? What does that process look like?
Well, it was actually quite interesting because during the time of our launch, there was a big the ETF launch, everything. And when you look, I think a lot of people are still looking at the other image, but when you look behind you, you can see Larry Fink, which is the CEO of BlackRock. And he's talking about tokenization of financial assets, which is getting bigger and bigger. It's all RWA, like complete hype. But what we're doing is working together with tokenization projects. Like we have Landex, they're tokenizing commodities such as wheat, all sorts of stuff. And they would be able to integrate their real world asset tokenized versions into our funds. So we could have the first ever decentralized fund, which could be a part Sandbox, part wheat, part Apple, for example. And this has never been done because even in the traditional finance world, there's no fund which has all three sectors of companies, crypto projects, and commodities. So this is actually really interesting for us to merge traditional finance with decentralized finance.
Very cool. And where or how far are we from seeing something like that scaled up for further adoption?
Well, we're currently developing our testnet product, and we're seeing a lot of RWA projects pop up while we're developing our testnet version. After community testing, which is what we're doing now, there's about 10 people testing it. After that, we'll deploy it to everyone. We'll have a community feedback round. We'll have a few weeks or months to develop mainnet. And then by that time, there should be a lot of RWA projects having their products up and running. So I guess we could be looking at mid this year for those multi-asset funds to be possible.
Interesting. Okay. So if someone were to pull up your project's website and go through it and get a little more information about the project, one of the things that stood out to me was this particular line talking about creating a true meritocracy within the fund management sector. I'm very curious, and maybe we can start with just describing meritocracy for those who may not be familiar with the term, but also what that looks like. What does creating a true meritocracy within that fund management sector ultimately look like from your perspective?
Well, I think to describe meritocracy like fairly briefly is that may the best win. And that's essentially what we are doing. We're allowing both institutions, fund managers, regular people, retail investors to create their own fund and compete on the same leaderboard. So what you'd be seeing is maybe seventh place on the leaderboard, you'd have BlackRock, but maybe first place at the leaderboard, you have a random KOL that promoted his fund on Twitter and his portfolio is good because he's talented at analyzing the markets. So you'd be looking at people outperforming institutions and proving that they're better than them, or institutions battling each other on the leaderboard to show, hey, we know the market better. If you want to purchase a product, you should do it via us because we're the best ones and it's all the same fees on our platform. So that would be what the true meritocracy would look like. It's going to be the person who has the best skills will be topping the leaderboard and will be getting the most contributions from other investors.
Interesting. So essentially, if I'm understanding this correctly, it's about giving the ability for non-institutions, so basically taking regular individuals or organizations who aren't part of those big powerhouses and giving them a chance to also compete in the same playing space as some of these other bigger institutions. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, we're lowering the barrier to become a fund manager whilst also allowing new people to easily diversify their portfolio by just contributing to a talented individual's fund. But the main thing we're doing is lowering the barrier for fund managers. Because nowadays in traditional finance, you have to get a degree, you have to have a track record, you have to do a lot of things before you can become a real fund manager. But it's not always the best person who has a degree. Sometimes it's just a talented person, and that's who we're lowering the barrier for.
Interesting. And to play devil's advocate for a moment, someone listening to this might go, okay, I hear you. This sounds fantastic in principle. What mechanisms are in place to support these new fund managers? What mechanisms are in place to support potential investors and so forth, especially in the finance space? Maybe we can talk a little bit about the safety and security element of it all.
So, of course, there's security elements in place for people not being able to put rug pulls, honeypots, anything in it. That won't go. We also have the possibility to KYC, to verify. We'll have a complaint center. We have multiple firms auditing. We have security monitoring. Also, we have Cerberus doing analysis on the funds. And all of it together brings even more security than traditional finance.
And that part is important because obviously security, particularly in the Web3 space, is a central pillar for adoption. I mean, we see it a lot in its mainstream adoption is, people feeling that they're not going to, as you pointed out, get rug pulled or whatnot. And that part is super important, obviously. I'm curious now, is there anything specific top of mind that you would like to discuss? This is kind of a free-for-all point. I don't have any particular question here, but it's more so, is there something top of mind about the project that you would like to chat through?
Well, I think all the aspects of the project have been mainly about product, but we have a token which we've done a pre-sale for. I think the 4th of June we have the last unlocks of the pre-sale, so then we'll see a lot less pressure on that. But the main thing for us is that everyone knows the utility of the token, which is every single fund on Alvara will have at least 5% alpha in it, which is bought from open market. So say we reach 1 billion TVL, there's going to be massive buying pressure on that token. And that's one of the things we want because it'll be intertwined with the whole platform. We want Alpha to grow with our TVL. And of course, besides that, we'll have staking options for governance, different locking periods, rewards for it. There'll be discounts on the platform when you're holding Alvara. So there's going to be a lot of utility for this token. But the main thing is growing our TVL will be linear with growing our token.
And from your perspective and from the Alvara team's perspective, how do you define success? So community members are often curious, they define success in one way. Projects sometimes define success in a different way. I'm curious to hear how your definition of success for this project will look.
Our definition of success would be being the main hub for fund management. And that includes traditional finance firms, that includes DeFi funds that are already active in the space, like we have with Alpha Transform Holdings, launching their 700 million TVL fund on Alvara. It's an AI fund. They're going to be one of the first ones to kick it off. But I think success for us would be, for example, having BlackRock, Valkyrie run funds through us because it's a lot safer and it's accessible for retail.
Speaking of AI, being the train that it is, I don't think anybody can avoid it. It's not just coming; it's here. AI is such a growing piece of this entire puzzle, especially in the Web3 space. How is the Alvara team utilizing AI, if you are, and where do you see AI fitting into this whole space, particularly on the fund manager side?
Well, there's something interesting going on. We're speaking with multiple projects that have trading analysis tools, and they're all AI tools. What they do is they do correlation analysis. And for people who don't know what correlation is, it's how one asset reacts to the other asset, which is really important when you're creating a fund. What we're trying to integrate into the platform is that anyone has access to the trading bot and they can ask them to create a fund for them, like make suggestions and give them an optimal correlation for their fund, which could help a lot of people create a well-performing fund with AI.
Very cool. Okay. I think we've gone through pretty much everything now, unless Joey, you think there's any other points that you want to touch on. If not, what I would like to do is give a few members of the community here an opportunity to ask you any direct questions that they may have. So remember, if you want to speak up, you hold down the V key for the entire duration of your question, because if you take your finger off the key halfway through, we'll only hear half the question. And if you press the number 1, 2, or 3 key on your computer, you will actually raise your hand, and that's how I'll be able to spot you and just wait for me to call you out. So please go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question for Joey.
For anyone whose mic is not working or who doesn't feel comfortable talking, you can also just press C and message in the chat.
Ether Explorer 969. I don't know if that was intentional and if you have a question or not. Ether Explorer 969.
I don't think we have any questions.
I don't think so. Okay. Well, Joey, I don't know if there's any final words you wanna throw out there for the folks who've joined us today.
I think I'd just like to invite everyone to the community or to follow our socials and anticipate our mainnet launch, because that's what we're really working towards right now.
And can you maybe just share those dates once more?
It's hard to give hard dates for it because we're gathering community feedback for testnet, which is being done by 10 people right now, and then we're going to deploy to everyone. I can see that why did the testnet go from open to only to 10 people? We're allowing 10 people on it to test it on a small scale before we test it on the bigger scale. So we get the bugs out of it, and then we're going to give it to the full community because they'll have a better user experience from the beginning. That's what we essentially want. Then we'll gather a bigger feedback round from the community. So I hope you're there, Ether Explorer. And after that, we'll start to implement the changes and we'll deploy on mainnet, which could be weeks or months, but I can assure you that it'll be mid this year that we're aiming for. So it's going to be this year. and it depends on how big the community feedback is and what we're going to implement.
Okay, Joey, one final question for you. What's the best way for anyone interested in learning more about the project to find you, to connect with the team or the project or learn more? What's the best approach there?
I think to start off, I'd go explore the light paper, which is on our website. And if you want to do a deeper dive, you could go into the white paper, which is a 42-page document. So have fun with it. And if you like to ask questions directly, there's a lot of community managers, and the team is also in the group chat. So feel free to join in. Feel free to shoot me a message. Just tag me. It's the same tag as I have here. So yeah, feel free to join in. One question is, can you give us alpha on partnerships if public? If I'd give you alpha here, it wouldn't be new. So I can't really do that. The only alpha I could give you is that our token standard, the ERC 7621, has been drafted on the Ethereum website, which we're going to be pushing with PR the coming days.
How long will we be in draft mode?
Well, we're continually talking to the Ethereum Foundation, and the thing is, they only have 2 editors working at the moment on the token standard. But it took 2 months for us to get on there as a draft. But looking at, for example, the ERC 7551, it's one of the earlier token standards. It's been in draft for maybe half a year right now, but it is fully functional. So it being a draft doesn't really hold us back. So it doesn't really matter how long we'll be in a draft. We're hoping that it gets approved this year, but then again, nothing is holding us back from developing. So it being a draft is not a bottleneck for us. It's actually a good thing that it's on there right now.
I received a question from somebody in our community asking, when you mention bringing on bigger players in the fund managing sector into the space, when you want to bring some of those big names into it, what does a process like that look like? Because, a project can go and say, this is what we would like to do, and that's what we're aiming for. But from your perspective and the trajectory that you're building at, what does that process ultimately look like?
Well, bringing on partnerships is kind of there's a general approach for it, because you have your current network, which we've built ramping up to our launch. So we have people connected to traditional finance. One of our advisors was one of the people working on NASDAQ, so he has a lot of connections in traditional finance. When the platform is live, which is better timing than we're doing right now, we're going to have proof of concept. People are going to be using it. And then we're going to be going to the bigger institutions to show them, hey, it's working, it's safe, we have been audited. We're going to be talking via our current network to those in traditional finance. And having that network and having that credibility and audits is going to give us a lot of potential for bringing them on board.
Amazing. Thank you for the answer on that. I'm just going to do one more quick glance around the room here. If anybody has a question, please raise your hand, write the question in the chat, or just feel free to speak up at this point. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I appreciate your time. Joey, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Thank you for sharing a lot of this insight, and we hope to do this again sometime soon. Good luck with all the upcoming announcements and the progression of this project. It sounds incredible, and we're excited to watch this grow.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and let's continue when we get closer to mainnet launch, so we have some extra news and more stuff.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day.